All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to our summer virtual series. This is a special time for one. We're meeting over lunch, and so hopefully everybody's got some food going, maybe some coffee if it's a later morning or things like that. But again, my name is Tara Stevenson. I serve as the Vice President of Student Affairs here at Flagler College, and I am joined today by Mr. John Delaney. You want to say hello?
Good afternoon now, I guess.
I know it's officially afternoon. So, a couple housekeeping things as we always do before we get started. I am super pumped to say that this morning I did receive an email from our amazing marketing and communications team that everything has been posted up on the Flagler College YouTube channel. So, any other recordings that you're wanting to watch, those have all been added. So, please feel free to share those. One big plug I do want to put in is that we had about 2 weeks ago, where we reviewed what to expect on move-in day. Had a lot of really great information, put some maps up there so that our families and students know what to expect for that day. So please feel free to take a look at that recording, as I know a lot of people have been asking about it. But we've got the Q&A function available if anybody's got questions. Otherwise, we have some things that we'll go through and then we'll close out at the end. But John, this is your fifth year as our president?
Yeah, starting the sixth. Starting the sixth.
Starting the sixth.
Yeah.
All right. So, what makes Flagler so unique in your perspective, especially as you are starting that sixth year?
Well, and actually, I began as an interim president, and the intention was to stay one. And
And that just kept stretching.
yeah, and after a couple months, I just fell in love with the place, and the building is really it's fantastic, and the campus in general, the setting in the town is really, really unique. And with the bayfront just a few blocks away from the edge of campus, we got a river on the west end of edge of campus that we have a kayak launch, etc. But really, it was sort of the commitment to teaching, which in many places in higher ed, you kind of get to wonder where it's online, it's graduate students doing the classes as opposed to full-time faculty members. And faculty here just flat love to teach. And the classes are small. The best way to learn is small classes in person. It's been proven over and over again. It's not to say that there aren't opportunities in other ways, but the best is with somebody that's a professional in that particular discipline and brings you along. And the creativity of the faculty here too. They redesigned those first 2 years, what's known as
Mhm.
general education, into focusing on learning outcomes and core values. It's not just the pick three English classes and two maths and one foreign language. It's built around these learning outcomes, and those credits are all transferable for people in the event for some reason that you decide you need to move back closer to home. But it's a very, very special place, and one again that I did not anticipate staying beyond 12 months. Like the board originally said, well, I'd be a 2 year interim, and I said, no, you really need to move beyond and begin the search process for a new president. So it's become a love affair.
Absolutely. A little bit off script, but it was one of the first things that you mentioned was, our historic landmark, Ponce Hall. That has been a real defining moment for your presidency because
Yeah,
of all that that building's been through. You want to share a little bit about that
yeah. Of
experience?
course, the building opened in 1888, and it was built by Henry Flagler, who was John D. Rockefeller's partner. They were two of the richest people in the world at the time, and really fascinating individuals. And Flagler fell in love with Florida, and then built a series of luxury hotels, seasonal hotels along the coast. Some of the luxury hotels up north were only open in the summer, and in the south they were only open in the winter months. And he had fallen in love with St. Augustine, and so anyway, it had gone through a bunch of incarnations. The Coast Guard took the building over during World War II. The family, Flagler descendants that owned it, consented to that. The Breakers in Palm Beach went to the Army. Coast Guard took over this building. The family was, real loyal to the country in that particularly tough time. And anyway, we had a water sprinkler break on July the 4th of 2022, and it took us a few hours to get it turned off. The water caused the ceiling to collapse. That was built in 1888, the original hard plaster, and it hit the floor so hard it actually broke the fire suppression sprinkler system below as well. And it
No, we're
caused
talking about the wrong kind of fireworks on July 4th.
that's right. Yeah, the wrong kind. And security was right on it, and the fire department came promptly. But they walked the opposite end of the building to find where the water went, where the water was going. But it allowed us to get behind there and say, we're going to have to really gut the entire wing and take it down to the studs. The Coast Guard had done a lot of damage to the building. The load-bearing walls had been cut completely out. It's wartime, so I'm not
Do
faulting.
what you got to do.
You do what you got
Yeah.
to do to win the war, and but I think nobody had realized the extent of the damage. And the water break, as our structural engineer said, was actually divine intervention. And what we were able to do was to completely renovate and modernize originally the east wing of the building. And in record time, this was July
Hmm.
4th, and we had to have it open by the following August. Unfortunately, we had to move the students that were planning on moving into the east wing to other rooms and other places on campus.
Hmm.
Um, but we found Thomas Edison's signature. He installed the electricity for Henry Flagler. We found ironwork that was from the company that did the Brooklyn Bridge and the skeleton for the Statue of Liberty. We're able to modernize everything, including the heating and air conditioning system. The building, of
Hmm.
course, originally did not have air conditioning, and the heat primarily came from fireplaces. They burned coal. We found, I think, 17 fireplaces on the east wing that have been covered up.
And that's
Yeah.
just one half of the building.
One half of the building. Most of the rooms have a fireplace. They're not working, of course, but they're really kind of artistic. Everyone's different. Different tile
Hmm.
work, scroll work, mantles above
Hmm.
the mantle, the artwork. Some of them are kind of in corners, some of them kind of angled, but they're really works of art. And we're kind of planning on doing sort of a coffee table book of taking a professional photographer of all those fireplaces all across this main building. But it turned out to be a gift in the end. It was an expensive gift. We had to spend about 140 million on a complete restoration of the building, but it's in better shape than when it opened in 1888 and by far.
Absolutely. And the students are, I think, truly appreciating that they are living in that history. And there's times when you are outside the building and you see what it's like, and then you go inside and you're like, there's no way this is such a historic building on the inside with all those renovations. But the way that it's been renovated to include so many of those historic pieces, it really creates this experience for students.
Yeah, when you do an historic restoration, the idea is preservation is at the top. That any original piece of wood, metalwork, paint, etc., you try to keep. And the paint, we actually got the original chips. And up in Colonial Williamsburg, they have a place that can send the paint chips, and they'll tell you what the paint color was back in 1888. So we've used the original paint colors, and Louis Comfort Tiffany installed the stained glass. I just was mentioning to a group that I've been here about 3 years, and I saw a photograph, kind of a carving sculpture. It's about 4 feet tall. I go, where in heck is that? And it was two of them on each side of the entrance to the dining hall. I didn't even notice them because there's so many other things going on. The stained glass
Mhm.
on each side of the stairs there are really spectacular, in
Yeah.
particular. And then you're looking into that dining hall, but every day I find something I just hasn't observed before. And that's what the Urban Land Institute has a phrase they call a sense of place. There's just something unique about this place, whether it could be the grounds, it could be the landscaping, the building. And that's what you have here. It's a place, as I said, for the documentary that we did on the renovation, the restoration of the building, that it's a place you want to sing, pray, think, contemplate. Really, really special sort of place to come and learn to do. The dining room is attached to this Ponch building, which is an unbelievable, considered one of the prettiest dining rooms in the world on any campus. And wonderful, wonderful place, a great place to learn
Yeah.
with faculty that want to teach.
Absolutely. And, living in Ponce Hall is not necessarily the experience that all of our students have. However, they do get to experience Ponce and all of that history as they're here, by being in the dining hall, as you mentioned. I did a Ask Me Anything session the other night with some students, and we were all talking about our favorite places on campus. And one of mine is the Flagler Room, where you're just like in that history. But I also love just bringing my own laptop and doing some work out on the Ponce loges and the patio furniture, getting some fresh air and seeing, what it's all like out there.
Yeah, the courtyard, students love out
Yes.
there. Even in the summer, you can get some shade and some breeze through there. The mezzanine, so you go up to the dining hall and go
Hmm.
up again. The mezzanine space is one of my favorite spaces, and
Yeah, yeah,
the old, the original fireplaces, and we've redone the furniture in there to make it more of a gathering place for students. The
absolutely.
dining hall, which is sort of our cafeteria. The food service company that we work with does a great job on responding
Hmm.
to student interests, needs, requests to make that kind of a great experience. But no, you own Ponce Hall, whether you live in it or not.
Absolutely,
Um,
absolutely. And you also mentioned the documentary, which for our families and any students that are watching, that will be a part of our Welcome Week schedule. And so we're partnering with our first year experience group to kind of help students get acclimated to the city and to their own history. And so that'll be one of the choose your own adventure options, is if you don't want to go out and explore downtown, you could hang out and watch this amazing documentary that no matter what type of person you are, definitely moves you, a little bit.
yeah, the integration of people think of downtown, they think of skyscrapers and those sorts of things. That's not
Hmm.
St. Augustine. There's a height limit
Hmm.
here. There's only
Hmm.
really this building and one other building that are particularly tall. And it's a very walkable city. So it's
Yeah.
easy to walk this campus, and the city sort of is around us. And there's shops and restaurants and gift
Hmm.
shops and bookstores and all within blocks of the campus. But you don't feel like you're in New York City or Washington, D.C. or a big
Yeah.
city kind of a sense. It's much more like a village, a little seaside village. So
Yeah.
I think everybody that comes here and graduates really almost has a cult-like
Yeah.
attraction to the campus. And so we'd love to see new students experience it every year.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's switch gears a little bit. You have quite a large family yourself, and you've put quite a few of your own children and extended family and supported them all through their own education. What recommendations do you have for our family members that are getting ready to put their own student through this transition?
Well, it's particularly if it's the first time you've got one of your kids going off to school. I had a friend that described that. He said, they don't prepare you for the emotionality of your kids going off to college. But millions have done it. And what I always say when we meet with families and with new students, no matter what issue your child has, it could be health, it could be a disability, it could be emotional, it could be a broken bone. We've seen it all, and we've got somebody on this campus that is ready to help that student with that issue, no matter what that issue is. And again, an advantage of a smaller place is that it's a one-on-one kind of a thing. So
Mm.
any problem anybody's got, we really want to try to solve it. The larger places, it's more of a bureaucracy. There's just not a way around it, and that fits for people. I tell families there's a college for everybody. You just got to find the one that fits, and like a marriage, you hope it doesn't end in divorce, but with a college you can switch if it's not the right fit. But this is a particularly accommodating campus, and try to adapt to each individual student's circumstance, and we find a way to make that work because we want our students to
Yeah.
succeed and move on into a career in the workforce or whatever the next stage of their life is. But they're going to be prepared if they graduate from Flagler.
Yeah, that student experience inside and outside of the classroom has really been a huge priority for you during your presidency. And you brought about the five-star plan, I think, after your first year. And so, do you want to talk to us a little bit about that and how that's defined as well, some of the work you've done here?
Yeah, that five-star plan, the whole idea of like a five-star hotel. This was
Hmm.
originally a hotel, but it was really a plan to improve all elements of the campus, not just the physical structure that we talked about in the beginning, but academics, the technology. Student life is a big thing. I often say, if I look back on my college career, that probably less than half of what I learned was in that classroom. A lot of it was walking between classes with friends, staying up late with your dorm mate, talking about a paper you got to prepare. I did a lot of intramural sports, the fraternity, sorority. We try to find that we've got a spot for any student's interest, whatever that is. If we have
Hmm.
a couple that are interested in a particular kind of a thing, water skiing, snow skiing, surfing, rock climbing, whatever it happens to be. We want to scratch those itches. And
Mhm.
so, we work around what the student is interested in, the student's needs to try to make that succeed. But we're working on continuously trying to improve this campus environment, actually overall, completely overall. And Terry, we moved a lot of money into student programming and events and things like that to try to, get things out of the students out of their dorm rooms when they're between studying
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
bonding.
And trying to find things that appeal to today's student that wouldn't have worked 5 years ago, wouldn't have worked 10, 15 years ago. We understand that today's students have perhaps maybe a smaller locus of groupings of friends that they feel comfortable with. There's a little bit more discomfort. And so we really try to find different events and things where students can feel comfort and the discomfort, or maybe bring a small group with them to a bigger event and try to find where they're going to be most successful.
Yeah, I think that's a real important part of it is really, kind of that student experience and the student life. There's only X hours a day you're going to be in class and studying,
Hmm.
I mean, you can fill it all, I guess, if you want to with studying and reading more books, but the socialization is a big element of it. And, one of the things that's changed from when I was a student, um, back then, you wrote letters to your parents and it was a once a week call during the cheap long distance time, which was like Sunday nights. And now, with FaceTime, texts, and emails, the cell phone is so ready. You need the location trackers. You need to keep track of your family, but it really shrinks the world. And I've got friends that live all across the country, and it really being able to do something like this, when it's
Hmm.
set up, it just makes them feel like they're right next door. So it's probably a little less of a jolt for parents today than it was, 30, 40, 50 years ago when you sent students off to college, maybe they came home once a semester, but on this one you can be in touch almost daily and not be intrusive.
Yeah, I mean, I love that you bring up the FaceTime idea is, students can FaceTime their family members, the therapy dogs that they're hanging out with on the West Lawn.
Yeah, yeah.
They can, FaceTime with their family members in the art museum when their student is, knee deep in a project and show them where they're at. And that's not something that was necessarily around 20 years ago, 30
Yeah,
years
that's right.
ago.
The portable phone, you
Yeah.
get them in the 90s, mid 90s, but they weren't quite as accessible. But yeah,
Yeah, but
my
it
kids,
allows for everybody to be a part of the
right.
experience.
Yeah, my kids and us, when the plane lands, we text, we landed, and
Yeah. You're
where
not alone in that. I still do that too.
oh yeah, and when I grew up, the parents just watched the news that a plane crashed somewhere where my kids landed.
They'll be here at some point.
Yeah, yeah, makes it a little bit
Yeah.
easier.
One thing that I know we usually do try to talk about every summer because, and I think it's especially getting more important now as our student body is changing and coming from so many different areas, not just the state of Florida, is 'tis hurricane season, and we are a coastal school. We are in Florida, so we do experience lots of different weather, hurricanes and stuff like that. So when it comes to communication, FaceTiming, all of that, like what are some of the different things that you can share to alleviate maybe some family concerns about what we're doing for those students?
Yeah, yeah. Every part of the country has their own thing. I grew up in Ohio and it was tornadoes, and um, California, lots of other parts of the country have earthquakes, and you can have flash floods and things like that. As natural disasters go, a hurricane may be one of the better ones because we get warnings.
Yeah, you
And
start a week and a half ahead of time.
yeah, those tornadoes, you don't get much of a warning. The heavy snowstorms, you may know they're coming, but your options of what to do are more limited. So, Florida has dealt with hurricanes or the near brushes from the hurricanes, and we've got the evacuation patterns. If we got to evacuate, sometimes it's staying in place, and
Hmm. Hmm.
that we've got the power, backups and all those sorts of things to be able to get through it. But yeah, I know sometimes people talk of Florida. I'd recruited a faculty member at my old institution from Utah, and his wife's worry was alligators and hurricanes. And I joke people can go a lifetime and not see an alligator, but if you want to see an alligator, you can see an alligator. And But the hurricanes, again, we've got a well-practiced plan on that.
Mhm.
You know, where people can go. Students often match up if their homes are inland or someplace kind of close. But the advanced warning, you know, we monitor those really, really closely. We work in conjunction with the city of St. Augustine.
That's something that I really would love for our families to know is that we are going to make decisions that are important for the institution. So even if, the city has not mandated an evacuation, but we feel that that would be better for our students, then we might do that. But we are not working in this silo, as we are working consistently with the city, and we're not just kind of this isolated entity here.
Yeah, I was mayor of Jacksonville from 1995 to 2003, and we had a massive hurricane, a Cat 5 in 1998, and that's pre-internet. And so we were doing the police chief and the fire chief and I were doing press conferences every 4 hours, and we were feeding into the National Weather Service that was, giving us their data. Um, Now it's online. Now anybody that can tap into the Weather Channel or the local TV station, their weather app, can kind of see the same set of knowledge that everybody else has got. And so we do work with the city. We did have one time the city ordered a very late evacuation where it was not doable. And we
Mhm.
knew that more
Mhm.
flooding was more of an issue, which, is not necessarily, it's not a life-threatening sort of a thing. And that the winds weren't really going to be the concern. But,
Mhm.
these buildings are really, they're built to really, weather bad weather.
Yes.
But again, we've got great plans and great warnings.
Yeah.
That's, like I said, the only good side of a hurricane is you kind of know when one's coming. And
Yeah.
often you don't have to go far to get away from it.
No.
Sometimes it's driving to Gainesville, which is an hour and a half away, or over to Tallahassee, or you go
Mhm.
south and it's going to be swinging north. And so we can always pretty much tell, hey, head in this direction, or stay in place. We're going to be okay on this one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been here at the institution about 18 years and just seeing the increase in intentionality of our communication is that we are definitely, that area of our campus has really built up something to help alleviate any nerves and to let them know where we're at in the different processes and the transparency and things like that.
Yeah, and for those that live on campus, which is about roughly half of the student enrollment, every floor has a resident advisor, an RA.
Hmm.
So that's one of the ways we work through it. We've
Hmm.
got the text alerts, we've got emails. Ask your kids to check their emails. A lot of times they're not looking at emails as often as we'd like.
Yes,
We've got the
yes.
public address system announcements, so nobody gets left behind. We got somebody is looking out for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, what is something that is unique about Flagler that's maybe one of your favorite traditions or favorite events or experiences that you've seen?
Well, probably Harry Potter Week has gotten super, super popular because the building reminds students of Hogwarts, and those are sort of fun when you get things that students seize upon, and athletics is always a really good athletic program, and those
Hmm.
events are always fun. A lot of students like to
Hmm.
go to support those, whether they're a sports fan or not. They're enjoyable sorts of things, and
No, we were just talking the other day with our athletic director how like the student section, for some of those basketball games can get really excited and get really into it, and they're wearing costumes and
yeah, they really, and having a home, they call it the hometown advantage, because your crowds there really sort of spur them up. A lot of those supports, the emotionality of it is such a positive. We're moving into a new athletic conference.
Yep.
We were in the Peach Belt, which was based in with us, Georgia, South Carolina. But the Sunshine State is the best Division II conference in the country, and by far, I think they won half of the championships for sports this past year. There is some advantages in being in Florida because the weather you can pretty much play year round, and in any of the outdoor sports, and then, of course the indoor as well. So it's going to be exciting. We play all the Sunshine State schools when we were in the Peach Belt. Um, anyway for the non-conference games. But it's a lot of these schools are really easy for our students and fans to go and visit on away game, and because they're close by Daytona Beach, Orlando, Tampa, Fort Lauderdale, etc. So they're sort of drivable, and it's gonna be good for our student athletes because for the most part they're going to be able to sleep in their bed on the night after a game or a match, and
Yeah.
we'll drive them on back.
And that transition occurs in fall 2027.
That's correct,
Yeah.
yeah. And the Peach Belt's been a great conference. I've been on the executive committee there and was actually slated to become chair before we got the invitation from the Sunshine State. We didn't even solicit it. But it's a great fit for us, all private schools, and gonna be a lot of fun back in
Yeah,
2027.
absolutely. Well, to close out this afternoon's session, what's one piece of advice you'd like to share with our family members that they can take away?
Well, this is a great school. You get a wonderful education. I know often you expect that from every institution, but this is my 20th year as a college president, and I also spent a year as the chancellor of the State University System of Florida. Not everyone is the same. This is one where the faculty and the staff really care about the students' education. It's a very
Mhm.
unique learning environment. It's a very unique setting in terms of the community.
Mhm.
I think it's the closest college to the beach on the East Coast of the United States, which is a big allure. It's a bike ride away,
Mhm.
or a quick Uber ride away, or a car ride away, of course. And I think if your students come here, they're going to get a great education. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, the alums that I've had the benefit of meeting over the last 5 years in Washington, New York, Tampa, Orlando, Atlanta, Charlotte, it's a cult-like group.
Mhm.
And not every college is it like that, where that bond is that tight
Mhm.
and
And that deep. Yeah.
that deep. Yeah, we get nearly 1,000 people that come to Alumni Weekend, which is a really high percentage of our
Mhm.
alumni compared to other
Mhm.
institutions. And that's because they really love the place. And you mentioned the documentary that we did
Mhm.
that on the construction of the ponds. It's about 24 minutes, I think. So it's pretty quick watch. And we played it at Alumni Weekend in the dining hall. We have a brunch on the last day on the Sunday, and literally the alums are crying at the table
Mhm.
because of
Mhm.
their bond with this building and this campus. And not everybody even lived in the building, but this is still their
Mhm.
home. It's the centrality
Mhm.
of the campus. But it's a wonderful place, and it's going to be a wonderful home to all the students that have the benefit of coming here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us for a little bit of lunchtime discussion. To let everybody know, our next and final webinar, I am actually really excited for this one, will be on the 13th. We'll be back to 6 p.m., but it's a parent to parent one. And so we'll be joined by a current Flagler parent. I believe their student is a rising sophomore or junior, one of those two. But I always think it's fun to hear from somebody actually in the situation right now and how things really are. So join us for that last one on the 13th next week. And then, of course, if there are any questions that anybody has, feel free to email us at orientation@flagler.edu, and we'd be more than happy to farm out those questions across campus. But that's at least hopefully a central email for you all. But thank you again for joining us. We are in the month of August. Our countdown is huge. My goodness, I think today is 15 days till move-in day. So it's here, it's happening. But hopefully you all have a wonderful rest of the afternoon, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Enjoyed it.